Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our UFC 303 predictions and breakdowns. My name is Emil, formerly known as Stand 'em Up, now known as Cage Menace, and I'm sitting alongside of none other than Suraj Suki Point MMA. What's up, brother?
Not much. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited for this card. A lot of good fights here, but obviously some things happened here and there. What do you think of the
What else
matchup?
is new? What else is new? We can't get a card as of Monday and know that that card is going to last till Saturday. That seems to be the biggest problem right now.
But what do you think of that about the new matchups though? Like me personally, I like
You
this
like
one.
it better. So the way I looked at it was anticipation always does something. Hype does something. So you were looking forward to something quite a bit, but you're 100% right. In terms of fighters, in terms of the quality of matchups, yeah, they started to cook as they always do and found a way to make sure fans weren't upset.
Yeah, most definitely. They started the cook like you said, but obviously main event is Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka. We've seen this fight already. This is going to be the rematch of I think it was about 8 months ago,
Hmm.
7 months ago actually. And Pereira won that fight by knockout in the second round. First round was close, but Jiri got that one on all the judges' scorecards. Now Pereira is, I think, close to a minus 200 favorite here. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts on this one?
So my big thing in this fight is levels of improvement, right? If we take into consideration the way Yuri looked against Rakic, the big thing there was durability, endurance, kind of just deal with the storm that was coming and then create your own craziness after the fact. The thing that I love about Pereira is he welcomes that kind of fight. And those Izzy matchups showed me one thing about him that I loved, and his ability to dig deep is severely underrated. He can get rocked early. He eats a lot of good punches, and I think the Jamal Hill fight made him look really good because that was an example where the aura, as we say, was 100,000 power level because the ref shove off the confidence he had so quickly. You could even make the argument if that fight didn't go the way it did, it might have even looked a bit more competitive as the fight went on. We don't know, but that's where I think Pereira kind of has an upper hand here because you don't want to be a slow starter against Pereira. You need to do damage, you need to get things going. And the thing that scares me the most with Pereira is in championship rounds, he finds a way. And Yuri takes a lot of damage. And the power side of things is where Pereira's dealing with anybody's case. So I just feel like that matchup I have to give an edge to Pereira just because of how Yuri fights. Not that he can't win. There's so many different paths to victory, but it's just the way that he performs over 5 rounds. I got to give him the edge here.
Yeah, and like you said, it's about improvement. And honestly, I didn't see any real improvement from Jury in his fight versus
Hmm.
Rakic because he was still getting tagged. The low kicks were still a big problem. The thing is, he does fight from both stances. He fights from orthodox and southpaw, but we've seen that he really isn't that comfortable in southpaw. So he always goes back to orthodox, and the kicks to the calf, they're always a problem. They were a problem versus Rakic, but he's just tough, so he weathered the storm, like you said, and like his mentality is obviously strong. But I feel like against Pereira, that's not going to be enough. He was able to walk through Rakic's shots, but he won't be able to walk through Alex's shots because that's just different. So I feel like we're going to be seeing a similar type of fight. Jiri will try and wrestle more, and
Hmm.
Alex will be able to defend the takedown attempts, get up if needed, and find a KO at some point after battering the legs. But the problem is with Jury, man, he's a wild man. You never know. You never
Hmm.
know. And
And that takes me. Yeah, go ahead.
maybe this time around he takes that shot and he's like, all right, let's go. And then it might go differently. Yeah, I feel like Jury,
Hmm.
you never know with him. I do expect Alex to win, but honestly, at about minus 190, minus 200, that's really not something I'm looking to bet on.
Mhm. And the thing with that you just pointed out, it's the style of striking, right? When you look at a kickboxer that's done so well in MMA, the thing about kickboxers that I love in MMA is they tend to have relatively good stand-up defense. When I look at Jiri, he's a great striker for MMA, but the technical side is where he lacks, in my opinion. To leave your hands down like that in fights against guys like Pereira is a scary thing in the first place. And you could use it. You could, the bob and weave and all of that kind of stuff does work. But taking 4 or 5 left hooks from Pereira will add up over time. And I just don't know if he has that edge. And if you look at the betting lines, I mean, this opened, pretty close. And right now you're seeing the wide, it's getting wider. A lot of money coming in on Pereira. You can see some places all the way up to minus 185 on this fight with Jiri over plus 140. So in my opinion, it's like the dog shot on Pereira might make sense, but then you're probably looking at maybe a KO, something like that, because the 5-round fight with a technical kickboxer, to me, I just feel like if it stays standing, how can you not give it to Pereira?
Yeah, and thing is, Jiri did have some success like early with the wrestling. I think he held him down for a minute or two, but it seemed to me that Alex wasn't really trying to stand up from that. But once he wanted to, he did. But I do think that like the better kickboxer, the better striker overall, he will most of the time he'll need a little bit of time to adjust, to make the reads, and from then on, when he does make the reads, it's going to be over. The better striker will always win at the end, and I feel like he already has the reads on Jiri. I don't think that he's changed it up that much, so exactly. I feel like Alex can start earlier, like in round 1, starting with the low kicks, with the strikes, the jab to the body, and then I think the left hook will come.
And unfortunately, we don't have prop numbers out or anything like that. But would you entertain something like Jiri takedowns? Would you entertain something like, the only thing that scares me about significant strikes in a 5-round fight is the number will be inflated to them potentially fighting 5 rounds. And as we both know, this fight could end in the first round, the 3rd round. You just don't know. But do you see Jiri maybe landing a couple takedowns?
He might. I'm not sure. With him, you never know. He might. What I have seen though, the fight to not go the distance prop is at minus 430, which makes sense because it's 5 rounds and it's with these two. Honestly, I would put this in a parlay. Me personally, I would put this in a small little parlay.
The fight doesn't go the distance, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great parlay piece for me. The number's still always high. You know me, we've talked about betting enough where I'm very fickle when it comes to the numbers that I'm willing to take. But in terms of outcome, yeah, I mean, the world would have to be ending if those two guys go 5 rounds and we see what they look like at the end of 25 minutes. Am I right?
Exactly. So my prediction is going to be Pereira. I'm guessing yours is too.
Pereira by knockout would be my prediction here.
All right. Then let's go to the co-main event here. This is a short notice one, just like Pereira versus Jiri. But this one is a bit more unexpected because it was just an extra fight. This is no replacement. Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopes, 2 great BJJ practitioners, 2 very opportunistic ones as well. So I'm curious, what do you think?
I personally think this is a terrible fight for Ortega. The reason why I say that is there's a lot of intangibles that come into play. The same reason that I picked DDP to beat Robert Whittaker was simply based on skill set. I actually gave it to Whittaker, but there's something about seeing some of these hungrier fighters who have championship level skill in the works that take on some of these guys that have paths to victory. So with DDP, you kind of saw that changing up, changing levels, trying to go for takedowns and following it up with shots up top. It really caused problems for Whittaker. And in this case, I think Ortega's BJJ in MMA is some of the best we've ever seen. Problem is he's not taking on a Yair Rodriguez right now, right? The thing with Diego Lopes that I absolutely love so much is his striking complements such a strong base in BJJ where he almost seems like one of those guys that's going to use it to like anti-wrestle, anti-get on the ground. You know, he wants to keep the fight standing for the most part and get these big knockouts. So to me, I don't think he's going to submit him, especially in a fight where on paper, it's the more dangerous area for you to be in. But I think Diego Lopes has a really good chance on the feet against Ortega.
I'm not sure if I agree with the fact that you think that he will use it as anti-wrestling. I get what you mean,
Mhm.
but like when he goes for the submissions, he actually goes for them. It's not a fake when he goes for the
Oh
submission.
no, sorry. I just mean in this fight, it's a good opportunity for him to use it defensively. Like I don't know if he's
Definitely.
entertaining the ground here. That's all.
Yeah. So Diego Lopez is a front runner. I think we both agree. He had a great first round for Shivloyev, and since then he's had 3 first round finishes, 2 of them being by knockout, 1 by submission. But you've seen against Yevloev, even though this was on short notice, I know this, but he gets tired. Like
Mhm.
if you get past the 3, 4, 5 minute mark, he isn't as active anymore. He's hittable as well. He is big, so like once he slows down, I think the movement won't be as quick. You've seen against Yevloev. Yevloev isn't the best striker, but he was
Mhm.
still able to tag him a lot with a jab, with a 1-2. And Ortega, his first rounds might be the hardest like ever. Like, we've seen it against Rodriguez twice. We've seen it against loads of guys. So his goal is to get out of the first round, which is a big task, a huge task. Uh, Diego Lopez has insane power. He has
Mhm.
good BJJ, but I think that the fact that Brian Ortega is so tough, he has a good chin, and his BJJ, I don't see Lopez submitting him.
Same.
That might be a problem for Lopez. Ortega is also, he's getting older, getting smarter. And I really don't feel like Lopez has the striking of a guy like Rodriguez. He might have the power, or he even have more power, but I don't think that that's going to be enough to finish Ortega in the first round. It will be very tough. So
Mhm.
this is a very good live opportunity. I know you love this. You love the sound of this. This is a perfect live betting opportunity, in my opinion, because Lopez.
Personally, I would say Brian Ortega, in terms of where you like to put your money, he's a top 5 live betting fighter in MMA,
Ever, yeah.
period. It's truly remarkable. Like, I've caught lines of his at in the plus fours, plus 500 sometimes, and I've done it 2 or 3 times with him. Like, he takes such a beating, bro. The beating he takes is so bad that the line moves 300 points. That's how bad the beating is. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a perfect live betting opportunity, in my opinion. Just wait 3, 4 minutes until like Lopez is done, and if you don't bet it, if Lopez finishes him like before that, you're good. Like you haven't made any money, but you also haven't lost any money. So Lopez is a favorite here. I do understand why, but I'm going against the bookies and against the fans here. I feel like. Let me see actually if the fans, yeah, 73% of the fans have Ortega here. So that's interesting. Oh, I have Lopez here. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
So
that makes sense.
yeah, I'm going against the bookies and the fans here with Ortega. I see a finish happening in the third round. I'll go with the submission. I think that once Lopez really tires and Ortega has shown that like his top pressure is really real good. So I see a submission happening. That's T City. Let's go with arm triangle.
I uh I actually, when you look at the lines, minus 150 plus 125, it's almost like there isn't value on Lopez to bet him pre-fight. And I don't think there's value on Ortega to bet him pre-fight based on some of the lines we've already caught live. So in my opinion, even if you were to try to take something in this fight, Lopez to finish in the first round with the opportunity of betting Ortega live after the fact, I think that's a really good look because you just said as well, taking the submission prop on Ortega would probably be a great number based on where we see the current lines. So it's like Lopez first round with an Ortega submission. Obviously, it's not a direct R, but you can create a number where if either happen, it's open for you. With your main focus being trying to catch a live line on either guy, depending on how the second and third round go.
Yeah, only issue with live betting is there might be a moment in the first round that like Lopez will beat him up so bad that the judges will make it a 10-8, and then it might go to the decision. So that there's something for that to
What's
be
the
said as
fight
well.
goes the distance for this one? Do you have that line
I
somewhere?
have no idea. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I just because you had the last one. For me personally, like when I'm looking at books like DraftKings right now, shockingly enough, for a for a pay-per-view card, they have only money lines. That's it.
Yeah, that's shocking indeed. It's Monday of the week of the fight week, so it
Official
should have been that.
sponsor, for God's sake. Official sponsor. Can't even get its lines by Monday, Tuesday. Ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's smart for the bookies, right? They don't want to give away the value too quick, so.
Hmm. And they don't know if these guys are going to be fighting by Wednesday.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So that's a whole other hassle. But for me, I'm going with Ortega. He is plus 120, but honestly, I wouldn't put money on him pre-fight. I would just wait until the fight actually happens.
Yeah, you pretty much echoed exactly how I feel. I probably won't have much, if anything, on this fight pre-fight. I'll say Diogo Lopes has what it takes to try and finish him more than some of the other fighters we've seen in terms of energy. In just that first 5 minutes, he could be dangerous. But again, yeah, probably the best opportunity on this card is potentially a live op on Ortega.
Yes, sir. Then let's go to the next fight, which was supposed to be Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree.
That was on purpose.
Damn.
Bring it
Not a
up.
big fan of Anthony Smith versus Dolidze.
The next two fights to me are just one of those ones where let's get through them. I think that the Dolidze Smith fight has great potential, but it also could be one of the most active first rounds where we're going to watch two heavyweights for the next 2 rounds. We've seen it with both guys.
Yeah, Dolidze, he does get tired. So I get what you mean. But man, come on, Anthony Smith, bro. He's always going for it.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I was totally joking. I meant that mostly for Macy, Chiasson, and Myra, but
Yeah.
that I think Anthony Smith's last performance gave a lot of people some faith.
Yeah, but this is a whole different matchup. Obviously,
Yeah.
he was supposed to take on Carlos Ulberg. That would have been a great striking fight, but now we got Roman Dolidze moving back up to light heavyweight. A lot of people don't know this, but he started his UFC career at light heavyweight. He got 2 wins there, if I'm not mistaken. Then he went down to 185. So he has fought at 205 before. He was a pretty big 205 or 2, real thick, strong. The cardio wasn't really that great at 185, so I expect it to be a problem too at 205. Smith is definitely the best striker in my opinion. The BJJ is good, but Dolidze's BJJ is very slick. So the thing for me is the wrestling. I'm not sure who will be the better wrestler here. I think that the guy that does have the better wrestling here will win this fight, but I'm just not sure who that will be.
In my opinion, I could see when you kind of rewatch their fights in your head, it's almost like if you play this fight out, hypothetically, you can see Roman being the guy that's going for that more.
Yeah.
Pushing him up against the fence, trying to just quickly get him down to the ground, maybe hang out in half guard side control, just trying to land blows. But again, similar, just to reiterate your point, that's kind of where, Smith's been really good. Elbows from the clinch, maybe up top, or even try to sneak in a guillotine if he's leaving his head out there too much. There's those little options where Anthony Smith has looked really good in the past, right? In very similar situations. So to answer your question, I actually think away from being the better wrestler, I think we're going to see it more from Roman because of his style. And if Anthony Smith doesn't get taken down or doesn't get tired, I think he's in a world of trouble here.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I meant. I think that Roman Dolidze is the one that's going to be trying to wrestle. But if Smith's defensive wrestling is good enough, he will be the one that wins here because Roman Dolidze's striking isn't really that great. His wrestling isn't great either, but Smith has been taken down so many times. Even in his last win, he was taken down so easy. He just grabbed the guillotine, so that worked out for him this time, but normally it doesn't. And I don't expect Dolidze to lose in this way as well because his BJJ is very slick. He knows what he's doing.
He's good with transitions. Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like for him, in terms of MMA, his ability to combine the wrestling and the BJJ grappling is really good. His transitions are good. His ability to kind of keep himself in the offensive position or the closest to one is really good against some of the better fighters we've seen.
Yeah, against Hermanson, that was so slick, so good. Against Phil Hawes too. Phil Hawes is a good wrestler. He's been knocked out too many times, but on the ground he's real good, and Dolidze just made him pay when he got taken to the ground. So I'm not sure. Smith is an underdog here, which kind of surprised me. He is plus 135. Dolidze is about minus 160. I'm not sure, man. I'm going with Smith here, 55 to 45 percent in confidence, but maybe just a small little bet on Smith just because he's the underdog.
I actually don't mind the pick at all, especially based on the prices. But the way Roman tends to win fights is the way I kind of see Anthony Smith losing them. But the one thing you said that's very clear is the striking difference is pretty substantial. So it's similar to those DDP style fights where I just think Roman's going to do everything and anything to try and keep it competitive. Where if it goes to the judges, he might have a little bit of an upper hand with how you're looking at the fight. And the finishing upside isn't really there, in my opinion. And I think Roman getting caught is just something we haven't seen. You know what I mean? So I have to go with Roman because I think he has enough of the tools to try and grind this fight out.
I mean, it makes sense. It's just a very close fight. Both guys are almost
Exactly.
36 years of age, but Smith is like 70 in fighting years. Dolidze is
Exactly.
and he's still young in the game, but Smith, man, he's very old in the tooth, as they say.
I think we both agree on the one point that this line is definitely too wide. I think that's one thing we could both definitely agree on. It should be closer to a pick 'em.
Yeah, definitely. It should be minus 110 on both sides. So there is considerable value on Smith, in my opinion. So that's why I'm going with him.
Especially you said, to just reiterate, Smith by decision is a great prop to look at because if he does win, you can kind of see him maybe beating up Dolidze, having him tired, can't really get the finish, but he'll do enough to win 3 rounds, maybe 2 of 1, if anything.
Yeah, what I definitely do see is Smith winning the third round. Like maybe
Exactly.
he'll lose the first 2, but the third round is going to be for him. So if you believe that he can start off quick, then he's your guy.
The number's there for you, exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
Next up, your favorite fight on the card, Myra Bueno Silva versus Macy Chiasson. It was interesting to me because Myra was about a minus 200 when I looked a few days back ago, but now she is becoming a smaller favorite. A lot of people are putting money on Macy here, which does surprise me. So Myra is about a minus 130 right now when she was about a minus 200. So I'm not sure about this one, man. I'll let you start this one off.
So my main thing is if I watch the tape on Macy, there's certain things about her in fights where her advantages seem to be a lot of physicality, and when she gets into like an offensive BJJ position, like a lot of the time when she's in someone's guard, she tends to be able to hold them, beat them up a little bit. But for me, when I look at the competition, like a Pansy Kansas, was that her last fight? I'm pretty sure that was her last fight. I mean, that she's the closest thing to a pure-esque type of striker we see in the female weight classes. So the way that Macy wins, to me, as she moves up the rankings, I just think that there's going to be fighters that come along that can create a bit of craziness that won't allow her to hold such basic positions. And I don't think you want to be on the ground with Myra, to be honest with you. And when you look at her skill set, I think Myra, if she's smart, if she fights a smart fight, I think this is hers to lose, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I do agree with you. Thing is, Macy Chiasson is 5'11". She's a big bantamweight. She is definitely the better striker here, in my opinion. The power's on the same level, but she is longer. She does use the strikes sometimes, but the thing is, her problem is she wants to wrestle. And she had a hard time against Chiasson until she found the finish. Like it was pretty competitive. And her loss to Irene Aldana, I want to really get into this one. She lost the first round. Second round she won, but also close competitive. Third round she was winning, but she lost due to a up kick to the liver, which okay, shit happens, you know. But in the first round, in the last seconds, I want this to become a real. So Ash, you're watching this. She 100% tapped in round number 1 to an armbar to Irene Aldana. 100%. It was one tap, but she tapped. So a
That
tap
was the
that,
one, right? It was on the like a weird shoulder one, right? Where it was just like the
yeah,
one
yeah,
tap.
yeah,
Is that
like
the
it
one?
was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
really bad. And Myra Bueno Silva's arm bars are nasty. So I do not trust her on the ground at all. If she goes to the wrestling, it's not a good look. I feel like Myra is the much better BJJ practitioner. At some point, she might get the back, she might get the arm. And Macy has those long arms, long reach, 72-inch reach, so the armbar will come easy and quick. So Myra, in my opinion, like if they stay standing, I'm not sure if Myra has the wrestling to get her down. But I feel like she could, like at one point, get her down, and that's just a huge issue. So I'm going with Myra here. She will find a way to win, or Macy will give her a way to win. In my opinion, I'm going with Myra, probably by a submission.
I like the pick, and I totally agree because I keep bringing this guy up, but DDP has really figured out a way to make the best fighters in the world have to think on their feet. What's going to happen next? Where am I going? What should I expect? And I do believe that some of these up and comers, they don't look like they excel at any one thing, especially on the feet, but they've learned enough to take the fight to certain areas where they can try and lock something up or find good strikes to get them into an opportunistic position, whether it's on the ground, whether it's trying to finish on the feet. I just don't see Macy ever in that position. She almost seems like she's always grinding out a fight, even when she's winning. She just looks like she's trying to win the scorecards over all the time. And I just think that is a very bad approach to a fight like this because the craziness that Silva is going to bring is going to force her to fight in areas where she might not be very comfortable.
Yeah, and listen, her second to last loss was against Raquel Pennington by guillotine. And we've seen that Myra has a good guillotine, the ninja choke. She can cinch that end very quickly. So when Macy is going for the takedown, the she has a long neck as well. So I see that happening as well.
But that's champion, bro. That's a champion.
Yeah,
That's
but
okay.
now listen.
I'm
Listen,
clearly
I don't
joking,
know.
bro.
It's
Do not go
crazy that
ahead. Don't be analytical on me on this one. We're dealing in division where Raquel Pennington's the champion. Anything can happen, bro.
And even then, Myra was out grappling Raquel most of the time until
Mm-hmm.
she got tired. So MMA math here, but I feel like this one works.
Well, you pointed out something really, really good is that Chiasson, I think, to me, also has looked like she gets sluggish as the fight goes on. But ironically, she's the type of fighter that takes advantage of those types of things. Lose a first round, but then somehow have the grit and the grind to take over in the second and steal a third and win a 29-28, It just seems like she's that kind of fighter. But we both agree Silva's winning this fight.
Yeah, and I feel like the price will still be going towards Macy. So at some point, I think in a few days, it will be Pick'em, which I do
Mm-hmm.
like. Uh, and if
Agreed.
and if it is, I will definitely I won't hammer because it's still women's bantamweight, so I won't hammer it. But I'll definitely put a unit or two on Myra here.
And let's also keep in mind with a line that opens at a minus 200 that you then get at a pick'em, I understand that public spending is playing a role in that, but also understand that that was a minus 200 going into the fight for a pay-per-view card where the lines tend to be fairly sharp. They're a
Yeah,
little bit
exactly.
sharper for the pay-per-views. So in my opinion, you're getting nothing but value waiting out a line where people might just not like Silva or they might just believe that Macy's taller. Maybe like you know what I mean? Very
Yeah,
basic
yeah,
ways of breaking down the fight. So that could be what's driving the line. And you're 100% right. If that gets to minus 110, boom. Finally, I'll take a pregame bet with you.
yeah. And yeah, like you said, the bookies are much sharper than just random people on the internet. But from what I've seen, a lot of the time when the people, the favorites become like when big favorites like minus 200, they become underdogs. Most of the time they lose. So there's something there. I don't think that this will be the case here, but just
Mhm.
something to look out for. It's a trend that's been happening, that's been pointed out by one of the other YouTube channels as well. So
Would
shout
you
out
say
to
that would you say that
that.
that's happening on pay-per-view cards or any card in general?
Just any card in general. I think
Because
the last time I noticed this was on the fight night.
yeah, so I agree with it on fight nights because those lines will be a little less predictive and a little less I guess, analytical than these pay-per-view ones are. Because we've seen so many pay-per-view cards where if you did a 5-team parlay of a bunch of favorites on a pay-per-view card, a lot of these are hitting.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So my prediction is going to be Myra. Yours is too.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go to the last fight of the main card. I'm not sure if this is the right order, by the way, but as Topology has it right now, Ian Machado Garry is opening the main card versus Michael Venom Page.
I'm going to start this one because I got a question
all
for
right.
you, okay? I do have
All
to ask. I am watching Ian Garry fights, and I keep telling myself, what is this hype that I'm seeing? And I don't know if I am just so biased to a fighter who politically, emotionally, I just can't get behind sometimes. But when I watch him fight, I just keep telling myself, you are one bad matchup away from truly seeing reality. And you look at the way the UFC has picked his fights, even the Jeff Neal one, I was like, this could be a little bit closer, but so much length against a guy who pretty much only throws, boxing style strikes for the most part, maybe a low kick here and there. I've seen some kicks, but he really does like that in close boxing range. I don't see it. I don't see what people are seeing right now.
So I do get what you mean because his performances aren't like real good, or like they aren't like Shafkat-esque or Hamzat-esque. So I do understand what you mean, but I feel like with this guy, you see the athleticism. He's fast. He's smart as well. I think that's a big thing here. He has very good fight IQ, so that's what people like here. He doesn't care about what people say, and like if he needs to make a fight boring, he will. Hamzat on the other side, he's a bit different in that. I feel like his fight IQ is a bit lower as well. So I think that people like the fact that Machado is just he is a mature fighter for 26. He's fast. He's confident. He has good striking, good clinch work as well. So I do get what you mean. I don't think that he could become the champion as of now, but I definitely do think that he's top 10, top 7, top 5, maybe even. So I'm not sure if Michael Page is. He showed out against Kevin Holland. He made it a very entertaining fight. He won, in my opinion, 30-27. I'm not sure how people can give the second round to Holland just because he got him down for like 2 minutes. But like we've seen, man, if Kevin Holland can take you down, bro, I feel like I could take you down. Like, come on. There's no way Kevin Holland is taking you down and controlling you. That's just not happening. And if Ian Garry is smart, which he is, in my opinion, he will just get it to the ground or clinch. Strike within 1-2 minutes and clinch against the cage, try and take him down and be more active this way and just win a decision. It's not going to be pretty, and you're probably still going to be like, oh, this guy isn't really that great. But I think that he just wins by decision.
You put it a good thing. I will agree that the intelligence is there, especially he's learned a lot for his age, is what I would say, skill-wise. And you're right. The way I predict this fight in my head is a lot of attempts against the fence, a lot of eliminating the distance, because even if he believes in his distance striking, I mean, you're fighting in his backyard kind of thing, where you might have more options to take the fight in other areas. The problem with me, Jeff Neal split, and Jordan Williams. I mean, even Jordan Williams was able to catch him a little bit in that first fight. And you look at this, the way they've handpicked his fights: Darian Weeks, Gabe Green, Kanan Song, Daniel Rodriguez. Even with Daniel Rodriguez, you kind of saw in his last fight, very much sticks to that boxing style. So he has to get close to you. He's trying to close the distance. So everyone that Garry has fought is a guy that he can keep at distance with kicks. He's got the length to try and throw good jabs and heavy strikes to follow up. A lot of things in his favor. This fight, it's almost like if he can't get it to the ground, or if Michael Venom Page is a little too quick for him, this could be the one. This could be the one, but you 100% sniped it. If Holland is getting you to the ground, there's no way Gary's not watching tape and be like, I need to spam takedowns here.
I'm not sure if he has to spam takedowns here. I think that even on the feet, he could be the better guy here. But I feel like Michael Page, he is a very good striker, 79-inch reach as well. So that's a problem for Ian Garry. I feel like most of the time he does have the range on people. This time he won't have it, so there might be a problem there. But and thing is also like Page, although he isn't getting that many finishes these past few years, he still cracks, man, and he showed
Oh,
that against Holland as well, bro. Garry isn't eating those shots that Holland ate, bro. Like the elbows and like the strikes is insane. I feel like Garry is his chin isn't that good. I'm sure it's okay, but it's not at that level. So I think that he recognizes that Page is still dangerous on the feet, and he'll just clinch him up and get him to the ground.
and you're basically saying you believe he's going to have immediate success with that from the get.
I think that once he does get him against the cage, he can hold him there, because we've seen in his last loss against Logan Storley. Like I watched the whole entire fight. It wasn't great, but I watched the whole fight, and he is very dangerous on the feet. But once he gets Logan gets a hold of Page, it's over. He can't get off. He was able to get off of Holland, but I feel like if Garry has a good game plan here, he should just be able to hold him against the cage and get a win that way.
Yeah. So again, it's going to be one of these close fights where he doesn't show a lot of dominance, and he's going to keep talking like he's the best fighter in the UFC. I think that's the part that doesn't sit right with me. When you're going into a Michael Venom Page fight with a split decision win over Jeff Neal, and you beat up an old Neil Magny, you know what I mean? Like, these are the things where the hand picking is only going to take you so far. And in this case, I mean, I'm not trying to wish harm on anyone or anything like that. It's just, at least on the feet, he's finally met his match. And I think that is a healthier look to see how good Ian Garry really is as an MMA fighter.
Yeah. So what's your prediction, though?
Now you see, you know what? I think, I'll go with Garry. I do believe that the grappling. The more I thought about it, the more you're telling me about it. It's one of those things I might have to accept, and I think that's the part that I struggle with the most. I just see, again, we're talking about live ops. I think Michael Venom Page is a very good example of someone we could, even if it's a technical striking battle for 3 rounds, I think Page has a chance. I think he could be faster. I think he's a really good counterpuncher. And to be honest with you, I've seen Garry more beat up by lesser competition on the feet than I've seen. Michael Venom Page on the feet against better competition. And I think that's where, for me, it's again one of those, like, let's see if a guy can take advantage of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. He did get knocked down bad by Kenan Song, so I think that's what you mean. Yeah.
Every fight he's got damage, bro. Every fight that he chooses not to grapple, he's wearing damage. And I just think that against higher level strikers who pride themselves on some defense and counterpunching, he's going to meet his match.
Yeah, but we've seen in his fights against Neil Magny and Jeff Neal that his clinch game is pretty good. He was like Neil Magny is very good in the clinch, and Ian Garry was able to control him there and just do whatever he wanted with him. But that's Magny's whole game. Like, his whole game is get you to the ground and get you against the cage. So it was impressive to see Garry be able to defend there. And Jeff Neal is big, is strong, is a different matchup to Page, but I feel like Neal's much better against the cage than Page's, and Garry still had success there. So I feel like in the striking and in the grappling, Garry will have the better exchanges, and he'll just get a maybe 29-28 decision win here.
My issue there, and I don't mean to keep going on this fight, but you bring up Neil Magny. It's easy for a fighter to find a path to victory when they're not worried about what's coming back. You're not worried about Neil Magny's power punching or his kicks or any type of counters that are coming his way. Jeff Neal, you know that there's a certain level of distance you can maintain with Jeff Neal to not take some of his bigger shots. And I mean, he still clipped Ian Garry a lot, which led to a split decision. So for me, it's just like he's teetering on these fights, even though he has moments of showing intelligence, some sort of domination, and fight IQ. It just so happens to me that he's playing into these hand-picked fights for him. because he's able to exert those things with having so much confidence in knowing he's not having to worry what's coming back. And I just think this is the fight where don't care about win or loss. Hopefully he learns and is humbled a little bit in terms of what a true matchup might look like as he moves up in the division.
Makes sense. You're still going Garry here?
Yeah, I think so. I might change that pick. Also, Instagram stories, check for my picks come fight day. That's where I post everything and we kill it every time. Let's go.
All right. So we've done the entire main card. I would like to introduce a rubric I'd like to do every time, which is Parlay of the Week.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have one already? Because I do have one, but I'd like you to go first.
I mean, we've been together for a long time, so you know that on a Monday, for me to have a parlay of all things is probably not in my cards with the amount of live betting that I do. But to be honest with you, are we chasing value, or is this one of those like surefire parlays where the line doesn't matter?
No, me personally, I just have a safe little parlay that I want to give to people.
Okay, so we're going with safe. Let's hear what you got.
So for me, I'm doing the entire card, by the way, not just the main card. I like Talbot. No, I'm just kidding. Ricky Simone. I like Ricky Simone here for this Oliveira. I feel like he's a much better wrestler here. He could control him. His striking is good too. His chin is good. His cardio is good. So at minus 250, I feel like the price makes a lot of sense. So I'm going with him here. And besides Simone, I also really like Joe Pyfer. He did lose his last fight, but Marc-Andre Barriault, I feel like that's a perfect match for him. He is a guy that's not really great anywhere, and it's a 3-rounder. So even if Pyfer gets tired, I feel like he should be able to get this done. But I see him getting the knockout in the first or second round.
Yeah, I think Piper is one of the best parlay pieces. Going back to what you asked me about, like parlay pieces in terms of the number, I think he's one of the best ones on the board. You might get a number under minus 300, which is a great piece to increase any type of number. But so one thing I want to ask you, I think they may have updated the main card to adding Pyfer Barriault and Jourdain Jean Silva. That's what it looks like.
That's going to be 7 fights. I don't think that's right.
It does make sense, right? Okay, yeah, because like I'm seeing the breakdown here, and it's split up very, very weird. But if we're talking about the whole card in terms of a parlay, I'm still going to try and chase a bit of value. I think Charles Jourdain at almost a pick'em is a pretty good number. I think Jean Silva, a lot of people are saying he's possessed by the devil and all this weird stuff, but I do think that the quality of competition is one of the big triggers that I look for and how guys fight as well. If Jean Silva can get him out of there, I think that's a different story. But I just think Charles Jourdain has shown toughness and the ability to learn how to win rounds, especially when you're a fighter that's going all three most of the time. So I really like Charles Jourdain as a parlay piece. And give me Pyfer. I think Pyfer and Jourdain would give you a really nice plus money parlay there. And you can try and hit that to bet live on the main card.
That I really don't think that Charles Jourdain is a good parlay piece. He might win. I have to really get deeper into the tape study, but I feel like it's kind of hard. Jean Silva is good. His grappling is good as well. He's coming from the fighting nerd, so but I do understand what you mean. Jean Silva hasn't really faced anybody yet of a UFC level.
Yeah, just remember, I'm playing the number here. I'm playing the number here. Yeah. I just think that it's a good number for Jourdain for the situation, because I agree with everything that you're saying.
Yeah, and Joe Pyfer, I mean, perfect. You know what? I'll throw in another guy to make it plus money, because I think Joe Pyfer, I found him on my book at minus 250. And I did the same with Simone, both are minus 250. But let's throw in Andre Fili here, also minus 250. So that's kind of crazy, but I really do like him here. His chin is my only concern here, but I don't see Cobb Swanson being the one that to really knock him out.
And the one thing I love about Fili's career is he's in that weird position where he's been through so many of the top guys that this almost seems like a revenge tour. You know what I'm saying? Like he's now getting the chance with all of his experience to go in there with a bit more of the IQ that's needed against top guys and get some revenge against some bigger names that he probably had to fight when he was a 20-year-old. You know what I mean? It's one of those situations where I think he's really embracing it, and I couldn't agree more. I think he's one of the fighters that I'm looking forward to watching on this card, and I think that fight has fight of the night potential as well.
Definitely. And I do really think that he beats Swanson here, 40 years of age. In my opinion, lost his last fight. So I'm going with Simone, Philly, and Joe Pyfer. I think that's going to be about a plus 150, so that's not bad.
Oh, that's solid. Three teamers is a little shaky for me as usual, but I do like the value that you're getting on fighters that we've already broken down and can say in terms of where they're at, what we expect. It's a pretty good number. And for me personally, just to reiterate that most of my picks go up on Instagram before the fights start, and I usually pick a Super Saiyan pick that is basically my main guy for the fight. Take him to win in any parlay you want, and usually take the finish. Pyfer's my biggest lean right now is a guy who not only I believe can seriously win, but I think he has enough power in those hands to catch Barrio. Barrio could be in a position where he's starting to very desperately grapple or try to get him up against the fence to just avoid some of these shots. And we know how that goes in first rounds with guys like Pyfer. It could be a very short night for Mark.
Yeah, I do agree with that as well. Joe Pyfer is definitely my most confident pick for now. So, I think...
Oh, so I got the Emil's stamp of approval for the Super Saiyan. I might have to just call the first Super Saiyan ever on a Monday. We'll see how that goes.
Let's go. Now, but I think that we've talked about everything. I've really enjoyed the breakdowns here. So, if you have anything to let the people know, let's hear it.
Not really. If you want to catch our opinions on fights in general, Cage Menace on Instagram, Suki MMA on Instagram. We work together basically all day, every day. So check us out. We have a lot of fun doing it, and we'll be back to talk about more fights. We look forward to it.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week.